Morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining me.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
Yep, very good, thank you.
The reason why I've invited you as a guest on Quarantine TV is because you're one of the people who inspires me. We met
Thank you.
at Tony Robbins, UPW.
Yep.
You're on fire team. In fact, you are a proud owner of the Ultimate Fire Team jacket,
Oh, very proud, yes.
which you've earned for your service. And we were having quite a geeky conversation at the beginning of this whole scenario because you work in hygiene.
Yep.
So we were having conversations about toilet roll supply chains and stuff.
It's a special skill. I can bore anybody about hygiene and chemicals. And no joke, I have literally spent hours talking about loo brushes with people in the past. So, yeah, it's
So
definitely a special skill set.
yeah, so it's quite, one of the things about this time that's interesting to notice is how detached we are from the world that we live in, where things come from, and how they get here. So I've noticed people saying, "Are there planes coming in?" It's like, yes. Where do you think your avocados come from,
Oh, well, exactly. Yep.
and your
Yep.
bananas, and everything that isn't in season locally is imported, and
Yeah, and
everything
there's
that we can't
systems in
grow
place with
locally.
my sector. Yeah, we've got the same. We've got machinery and tooling. A lot of the machinery and tooling that we use in buildings for cleaning and hygiene, scrubber dryers for floors, example, they're all shipped in. They're generally made in factories in Italy. The dispensers that you have on the walls are made in China. The new fogging machines that everybody's gone mad for the deep cleans are all made either in the US or Italy or Spain. So they've got to get them here somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we're kind of detached from the supply chain, I think. Um, so one of the things that has really inspired me is your dedication to service and your keyring project. And I
Oh
wondered
yeah.
if you wanted to talk about what that is and how you came about doing that and what it means now.
I say we had a member of our fire team family from the Tony Robbins events, a chap named Mark Lotsu, who unfortunately decided that his time was over and took his own life in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a bit of a shock to the system. He was larger than life. In the previous year, he'd been the rookie of the year for the event on our team. And he was an exceptional smile. I mean, he just lit a room up when he entered,
Mm.
and it stayed there for the day.
Mm.
And it was one of those that hit everybody very hard. There was a massive shockwave due to it, and it was an unexpected event from the people. Obviously, nobody knows what happened except for the person who's involved in these events, unfortunately. So, from my point of view, and a couple of other members of the team, we sat down at breakfast on I think it was the Wednesday of the event. And as part of that conversation, we were talking about, well, we wish there was something there that could help the mental well-being of individuals and something in place to give people some support. And what could people have on them should they feel? Because often these people, when they're in these states, and if you've ever been in a very low state,
Mm.
you go to an extreme. You either scream for help or you ask for no help, and often you end
Mm.
up digging this perpetual. Some people refer to it as a well that you can't climb out of, or a
Mm.
black hole, or various different ethoses on that. And as part of that, it was in my pocket. For years, I've been involved in something else previous, and I had a key ring that we put together for that. And it was very simple, straightforward quotes that just give you that little spark of inspiration, things that are a little bit different. So, depending on how you are, you read things differently. Depending on the time of day, you read things differently.
Mm.
So, it's having things that have got that little bit of flexibility in how they can be perceived. And so, off the back of that, we set up Pocket which was POCKET and then M8 for mate. And that was set up just as a simple, what can we do? Can we get something out there? Let's see what happens. And
Yeah.
thankfully, over the last couple of years, there's over 2,000 key rings have gone out. For each one that we sold, each person then had another one that was given as a donation to a charity. So there's Heads Together, which is William and Harry's charity that they were backing last year. And a lovely man called Paul Skates received those. He's on Facebook if you want to check out Paul. He's a character in his own right, and he's an amazing man. So we had that sort of scenario with the keyrings going out. I then had, if people who remember a few years back, there's a chap again on Facebook, Chico, who was on X Factor in the UK, released a song that knocked Madonna off the charts, and he'll happily put his hands up to that every day. So again, he's had them, and he was very, very kind to give them out to the cast of a pantomime that was rolling with characters such as Cannon and Ball, if you go back a few years to the brilliant comedy of the 80s. So these people have had them over the last few years, and they've then spoken to people, and we've ended up with more going out. And they've gone out over 52 countries. So it's keeping that perpetuation with part of the push that in my life I've always pushed to get to where I want to go. I learned a skill set a few years ago from another fire teamer, which was stop pushing, start pulling. And I sort of went, no idea what you got going on there, don't understand it whatsoever. It's push, 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 and it always has been. But actually in the last year or two, I've sort of said, actually, at this point, we're now looking at what can I do to get the right people on board in the right ways to get these things to do something else. And often you find that in life you push all these things so hard, and then you get to a point where you actually are close to giving up, and you take your foot off the gas, you stop, and miraculously something happens, and all of a sudden these things go active, and you end up with things sparking off. And I've done a lot of reading in the last couple of years in regards to energy and the use of and if you break down atoms into their smallest molecules, you've got energy. You take pure energy, the power behind that in 1 cubic centimeter is enough to blow the earth up, or something along those lines. So when you start working on that sort of, there is something there that's so strong and so powerful. And when you get these conversations, Chico I referred to a minute ago, he and I are dangerous, because when we start talking, it feels like 10 minutes, and you look and you go, where'd the last 4 hours go? So there's some of these things where it's just like, you get that sort of connection, even if you're not in a room with someone, where it explodes into this huge being that's greater than anything that you can comprehend. And those are the little sort of positive drives where you both fill each other up to overflowing, and the ideas spark, and all these tangents come up. And me being me is just dangerous for that, because I'll then take all those tangents and try and work out what the heck I can do with them. And again, I'm now trying to learn to actually sort of bring that back down and calm it down. So Pocket Mate, though it's been going, I'm actually taking it out of the fray because of the current situation. There's a lot of people who want to profiteer at the minute, which personally I've never been along the lines of wanting to do that. And the whole point was that it was something that people would procure. They would get one, we would donate one, it would wipe its nose in regards to the postage and delivery and the cost of manufacture, and that was it. And then we'd just get the next batch in. But when you've got the UK manufacturing systems that want to charge way in excess, I mean, we're trying to sell these things as cheap as possible, and then you've got people who want to supply them at £11 a unit. It just doesn't, the math stuff work out. So what I've done is I've wound it down. We're going to close down the web side of it and the sales side of it. The ones that are left over will be donated to charities that deal with PTSD, which will be after the current environment's effects have kicked in. So we've got over 250 designated to one charity that deal with ex-servicemen and blue light personnel. And then on top of that, we've got around about another 200, which will be donated off to other charities that deal with mental health and PTSD as well. So those are ready to go. I've just got to speak to the charities once things settle down, because from my point of view, there's no point in me wandering into a post office to post a load of key rings out in a minute, or going to people's offices and that sort of thing. So but those will be flying out the door as soon as we get that freedom to get things rolling again. And it will be the last of this phase, but the thought process behind it over the last couple of years has allowed me to develop and design and play with words, put together poems and put together little online quotes and things. So Pocket Mate is on Facebook, and people can actually have a look, and they can pick and choose if there's something that relates to them, and they can play with it. And if they've got an idea, or I've had people approach me and say, look, I've had this scenario in my life, can you write something for me? So we come up with either a quote or a poem or something for an individual, and it often then relates to lots of other people. So the whole theory behind that is, if it makes a difference to one person, it's done its job.
Yes.
doesn't. It could go out to 25,000 people and nobody cares. But if one person in it does their job, then that's the whole reason behind it, and that's the difference we want to make. So yeah, that was why I
Absolutely.
set it up, and it will be there for quite a long time to come.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good philosophy for doing anything. If it helps one person, I've done a great job.
Yep.
Anything else is a bonus. So coming back to your interest in energy, because we are, of course, all energy. We
Mm.
are energy. Um, and the way that we manage that energy can radically influence how we experience our day.
Oh
So,
yeah, hugely.
so, um, so you've been reading a lot around energy then recently.
I've always been interested in faiths and spirits and the idea of soul and the idea of belief and various things, and it's always fascinated me. And then I've been brought into other ethoses. So John Donahue's one that I just finished reading literally this morning, and his book is all about Celtic belief and background systems, whereas I was very, very fortunate because I was brought up in Peterborough in the UK, where we've got one of the biggest melting pots of different
Yeah,
backgrounds. I think the police force a couple of years ago had something like 96, if I remember rightly, different languages in the one police force. So
amazing.
it's interesting because I was very fortunate to have such an amalgamation of people and be able to see other people's points of view
Yeah,
and sort of learn, pick up, develop my ideas around various things. And I've always sort of had this niggling to know more. I'm a beggar for that, and I'll go out my way to find information about things. And especially in a minute, you've got there's always something in a religious calendar going on, whether that be Hindu,
yeah,
Sikh, Muslim, Christian, etc. Or if there's something going on in one of the old pagan systems, there's always something with the moons. There's always something with the stars. And it's all those little bits and pieces, and to sort of take those snippets, and when you break them down and read about them, you've got meditation in the Buddhist world, which goes alongside prayer in every other world, and
mm,
the actual ethos of it is always the same.
mm,
And it's one of those that it always draws back down to nature and the energy about and how it's created, and then looking inside and actually absorbing your own energy and working with it. So Master Co did a Wesak meditation at the weekend, which was
oh, did he? I missed that.
all about the moons. And yeah, so and you've got, if you think around the world, you've got so many people with their focused mind on one thing, and if we spent more time together focusing on one thing, we'd make a much bigger impact than all trying to get. And everybody might be here to do something good for each other, but unless they actually get together to conglomerate on that, they're going to struggle to mix and match. And
Yeah,
there'll always be, even though somebody can be the kindest person and wanting to do something, it's those one little sparks and one little things that can either rile somebody or they can make their day. And it's those little changes. And if we can get that working together, I think that's one of those things that just perpetuates, and it'll, where
yes,
it goes, you might not ever see, but that conversation you had on a Monday morning with the fella down the road just to say hello could potentially be saving somebody's life or changing somebody's life for the better
yes,
3 months down the road when they say something else.
yes,
So we never know, but at the same time, there's no harm in giving that positivity.
absolutely. And I'm glad you reminded me about Master Co because I had kind of lost track of him, but he did a workshop for us, didn't he? As fire team, well, as crew, he did a private workshop for us, in addition to the main workshop, which was for the participants of
Yep.
Unleash the Power Within. And that was one of the most powerful workshops I've ever done, actually.
Yeah,
Energy. He
he's
works with
certainly got a
energy.
special way about him.
He's incredible.
Yeah, it's one to watch. There is he's definitely sailing high on the plane, and there are people who are working with him. And one of the members of our fire team, Katangondia, is now qualified in pranic healing through the same system as Master.
Oh,
So
I heard about this
it's
last week.
yeah, and it is something. I mean, I'm reading up on this at the minute because I've looked at certain parts of it in the past, but I've never looked at that enveloped part of it. So I'm
Yeah,
trying to see how that works, and it fascinates me, it really does. So I think it's one of
Yeah.
those things that we'd sort of, it's from my point of view, if you got a character that's sparky and they need to, like myself, you're going 100 miles an hour, you're always looking for the next thing, you're working on stuff, trying to bring that down, stop. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people in life do this. There are points where you just can't focus on something, you can't do
Yeah.
certain things because your mind is going 150 miles an hour, often
Yeah.
focusing on the anxiety or the aggravated part of your day, or the she said this, he said that scenarios, rather than actually saying, well, hang on one second, none of that matters. And in this moment, and there's a book about now, if you ever get a chance to read it, I'm trying to think who wrote it. I'll think of that in a minute.
Yeah. We can put
But
links.
the power of now is the book,
Power of Now. Yeah.
and it's a wonderful book. But it's one of those dangerous books for me because I fold the corner and reference back to things, and there's barely a page in the book that I haven't got a folded corner. So that's brilliant. But the whole concept is about bringing it back to the point where you are, and actually, if you look at your past, your present, your future, what's going on around you at this point now, when you focus on now, nothing else matters because you can't change anything, you can't do anything with it. You can only adapt how you are and how you feel and how you perceive things. So those are the sorts of bits and pieces that really sort of twig with me, and they help me to zero out.
Yeah, I find that's such a good practice at the moment. The power of now,
Mm-hmm.
being in the moment. Like this morning, I've done loads this morning. I've taught yoga for an hour. I've done savers with Spoon Elroy
Yep.
Spoon Face, which is silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. I've just done some aerial hoop, which I'm trying to learn. So I've done loads this morning, and in amongst that, I read something about that a government spokesperson had said about retail. In fact, it was on the government website. I read something about retail, and started to feel anxious about the future, anxious about finance, anxious about my business. And then I had to bring it back to now. Like, there's nothing I can do about September. It's May the 12th. Bring it back to now. Focus on the breath. Like, however much I stress about somebody else's projection for retail sales, it's not going to make any difference to this day to day. In fact, my business is closed. So there's no point worrying about it when it opens. No point.
No, and I've got the flip side of that at the minute. We're going at 110 mile an hour, so I'm currently on my lunch break, if you like, early in the day, because I work. So my normal role is working in a housing association. We have care homes, sheltered housing, general needs, like that. And working on that side of things is full throttle at the minute to stay on top of sanitisation, biocidal cleaning, and various bits of the project. And we are working flat out. I'm very fortunate to be at home and able to coordinate an amazing team that they are, well, incredible, quite simply. And we've got plumbers and gas engineers and painters and decorators and kitchen fitters who have all volunteered to come and help support the team by sanitising general areas and things, so that my team can focus more on the in-depth and the people who are at risk at care homes and sheltered housing and such like. And it's a brilliant system. I'm very fortunate to have the company I'm working with. And it's one of those scenarios that we started this year with one word, and I instigated it with my team, and that was, this year is to have fun. Regardless of everything else going on about you, it is just about having fun. It's so simple. You take that point, you focus on that point. Everything else around you doesn't matter. As a unit, the team are to have fun, enjoy what they're doing, and we will work on that throughout the year. And we've been doing that. And it's little bits and pieces. And I know that I can trust them to turn up, do their job. They're brilliant. But at the same time, they can have enjoyment, and it's not, we don't go to work, we go to work to have fun. So work is not work. And when you get that grasp, and it's just one of those things, and for years I had lots of frustrations about companies I was working with and things I've done, and you bust a gut to do things and you change systems, and then they turn around and go, thank you very much, on your bike, we don't need you anymore. Whereas if you go to work to have fun, it doesn't matter. You can literally turn up. There's mess to clean up on the staircase, or there's a bin that's been tipped over because somebody thought it'd be entertaining, or there's graffiti on the wall. It doesn't matter. It's just fun. Take it one piece at a time and enjoy it.
And of course, for those of us who have never worked in that sector, we would never know that there are people coordinating teams of people working in cleaning care homes, cleaning housing association buildings, and that the person who's heading up that team is actually constantly reading books on self-development and trying to help everyone who's working in that sector to have a better day. We would never know that.
It's one of the things that if you can either be the manager that people buy into, or you can be the manager that everybody leaves. Nobody leaves a company in my eyes. They leave the management.
Yeah.
And if I'm not, you can try and be everybody's friend. That works for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Until they get a bubbling frustration that splits.
Yeah.
Whereas trying to support individuals on their own personality, their own life development and little bits and pieces is my sort of ethos on it. It's one piece at a time. It's trying to be that person that's there for them. They know they can talk to you, but at the same time, if they can't, or there's something, you always make sure there's another channel for them. And again, the company I'm with is amazing because they give all these channels, telephone services available for employees who might be struggling financially or mentally, or they give a support network through HR, which I've never seen anywhere else. And it's all these little bits and pieces that pile up, and it gives people that package. And it's no longer about the money that you get paid per hour. It's about the quality of the work that you're doing and the quality of the company that you're working with and how they support you to deliver an outstanding service to people. And that's what we try and sort of thrive on, if you like. And I think the ethos of that is fantastic. It's a joy to work in.
Yes, and it's not the most glamorous of jobs, is it?
I don't know what you mean. It's
cleaning.
It's one of those things that again, it's perception, I suppose.
Yes.
You get. I mean, we always get.
I've worked as a cleaner. Yeah, I used to have 3 or 4 cleaning jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can roll in the sleeves up. But I think when the staff know that you're willing to roll your sleeves up and clean the toilet in the same way that any of them are,
yes,
and that operational side of things as well. And we've got directors who are out at the minute sanitising on a regular basis as well to help maintain. So it's the chief executive and the directors are more than happy to be combined in that. And that is something, again, that I've not seen anywhere else. And if more people stepped up to the plate and went back to the shop floor and showed people what they can do, I think the whole world would be a much better place.
Yes. And I think my perception is that generally during this time of a lot of people being furloughed, a lot of people being at home, a lot of us have had a slight pause to appreciate those who are looking after things for us. I don't know whether in your sector you feel more visible, more appreciated, more noticed.
We've had a lot of positive feedback. I think again, it depends on what people are willing to do, and it depends on individual circumstances. At the same time, you get a lot of procrastinators at the minute who are a little frustrated that things, and they've got time, which gives them time to either go one way or the other. They either appreciate or they procrastinate and concern themselves with things that are outside of their remit, and that becomes their focus, and then they're so far off, and it's dealing and trying to help them as well. So we can get just as much of that positive drive and energy, and it's brilliant to see and get so much of it, and all these little ideas that pop up. I mean, I went for a walk with my son the other day, and we were walking through, there's a sort of wooded area, and somebody's obviously taken the time to paint these little fairy doors and stick them on trees with numbers, and the children can then walk through and actually try and find the numbered houses. Now, I don't know who's come up with that idea, but it's such a small thing, but it's made a difference instantly to so many people because the children are smiling, the parents are enjoying watching them play and have fun and try and find these. So whoever came up with it is an absolute godsend to all these other people.
That is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it's such a simple thing, but it's one of those little bits and pieces, and it's like the rainbows that children are painting for the NHS, and the little bits and pieces are just stacking up on top of each other.
Yeah.
So I think there's when they're referring to the new normal, I think they're not wrong. I think we're going to have an interesting dynamic come out of the back of this, and I think there's people are going to learn lessons 2, 3 years down the road and think, well, that was the point where things changed, and that was the thing.
Yes.
And there's a lot coming out of it that's yeah, I think it's yet to be seen, but I think
Yes.
it's got to be good.
This sort of thoughtful creativity.
Yeah, yeah, and I think people have time to do things in one way or the other, and it's those ones that do the positive stuff that are going to make these huge shifts.
Yes.
And yeah, what can happen with a little tiny? I mean, you're talking 6-inch high little fairy doors that are just made out of a piece of wood that's painted and stuck alongside a tree. It could go anywhere, but
Yeah.
it's one of those little memories that will stay with those
Yeah.
children and their parents for however long. We don't know.
Absolutely. Actually, one of my sons is a carpenter, and he has work on at the moment, but not every day. So I'm actually going to get him to do that and paint them
That'd
in
be
a
great.
rainbow. Yeah, and put them up at the woods here. Yeah, it's a really
But I
lovely
think
idea.
and again, that could be a snowball effect. We don't know where that might go, and
Yeah,
it's all those sorts of bits and pieces.
yeah,
And it's
such a
noticeable.
lovely
You sit in
idea.
the garden, you've got more birds now. There's
Yeah,
more insects because they're not getting hit by cars flying down the road. So this year will dictate a lot of change.
yes. I noticed the bird song actually when I was uh, getting ready for this call, and I've got double glazing and all the windows are closed, and I could hear the bird song through the windows, and it feels really different. The
Yeah,
sky's
I think
bluer, the
yeah,
sun's brighter, all of the vegetation is so green. Yeah, there are good things, but it's
I
also a
think
really
that
easy
is.
time to fall down a dark hole, I find, which is what you were talking about earlier.
It will be. I think there's definitely it's one of these things where you're looking at that bottom rung of the ladder, and if you can get hold of it and somebody can give you a leg up to it, you're fine. But if not, you're going to keep trying to grasp, and you feel that the thing's getting further and further away from
Yeah,
you. And it's that little grasp that makes a difference. And
mm.
if we can get hold of one person, and each person in the country can get hold of one person, or each person globally can get hold of one person, where that can go is phenomenal.
Yes,
So yeah, I think there's so much more possibility out there, but it's one of those things that until it becomes a wrong word to use at the minute, but a pandemic in its own right globally, that people are helping each
yeah,
other in that way. And I think
yeah,
actually this pandemic may be causing another pandemic, but the
yeah,
pandemic is positive.
yeah,
So yeah, I think it's a balancing act that I think people are starting to open their eyes to certain things and certain ways
yes.
of thoughts, and there's a lot of potential. It's using it the right way.
Yes. So how do you, because you manage a massive team and you do a lot of service for others, how do you charge your own batteries? Do you have a morning ritual?
Nope, nope. I've got two boys that drive me up the wall.
Ah, how old's it?
That's a 5-year-old and 18-month-old. So the
Oh,
two of
yes,
those
so
are
you
they're
have
my recharge.
18-month
Yeah.
old baby and a 5-year-old. Oh yeah, I remember now.
So yeah, we've got two little sparks of joy that start about 6 in the morning and finish about 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's just being on here, I can see one out the window and the other one is currently I can hear him. So yeah, working from home in this sort of environment is actually very interesting because they pop up at random. You're
yeah,
normally in the middle of something you don't want them involved in, but then they'll walk in. And it's acceptable. Whereas any other time, all these people would have gone totally up the wall at the fact that the children are around, and you can't have childcare and you can't do this, and you've got to actually no, we've got a world where the children are around, and people are going to have to learn to live with it. I think for a
and
bit
I
longer
love
yet.
that. I love the acceptability of things being a little bit more relaxed and little bit less uptight and a little fewer expectations. And
Yep,
for me,
especially in the UK because the Brits are renowned for being a little uptight.
yeah, Yeah, and there's no way I would have done this before this time, because I would have wanted to do it perfectly, and also
I've never done one, so you're my first one.
brilliant, and also everyone would have been too busy to do this. So
Yep.
so so it's an amazing time for actually really getting outside our comfort zone and doing stuff which might inspire someone. Like Mark said, he loves these interviews, he said on the comments. And it's like, yeah, this might inspire someone.
If we can make one difference, that's all it takes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep. I think that's key to everything I do, and hopefully it makes that
yeah,
change. But it's about enjoying yourself as well. And if you're not enjoying
yeah.
yourself, then the old statement is you're not a tree. Move, do something, create something.
Yes,
Um, you don't have to stay where you are. You don't. There are limitations, and there are things in this world. I mean, it's easy to say that you've got this scenario and you can go and do that. Everybody's different, so you can't put everybody in that box. But
yes.
you can remove the box,
Yeah, remove the
and
box. Smash the box
if you look
up.
exactly, and if you were inside a cardboard box and you pierce a hole in the wall, your focus through that hole is only so much width of
Yeah,
space, and you can see so far. Whereas if you open an envelope in it, you can see more. But if you take the box away altogether, the possibilities can go in any direction. And I think
yes,
that's kind of my idea of how I put things is you just take the box away. Everybody in this world talks about being in a box, and Tony
yeah,
Robbins is a brilliant example of the events because he talks about you get up in the morning, you live in a box, you go and you get bathed in a box, you go and sit in front of a box and watch a box and you listen to a box. Then you get in your box, you drive to another box in front of a box, and then you come home in your box. And occasionally you might get different shape in your day. Well, why?
yeah,
So there is scenarios you can go outside and you can sit at a round table on an oval chair, looking at open space that has no limitation to it.
yeah.
Why would you want to be in a box?
And one of the things that I've really enjoyed, because I do evening deliveries for our online shop, is
Mm.
seeing families walking in the evenings.
Yeah, yeah. It'd
That's
be nice if they gave a few more feet of clearance when they're going past me, but yeah, I know it's apart from that, it's lovely, and they're varying in ages as well, which is
yeah,
brilliant. You're not got this image of teenagers in front of a TV all day or in front of a
yes,
tablet. They are actually out on bikes at skate parks, and yeah,
yeah,
I think there is a lot more to this in the whole. Um, but yeah, I think if you were looking at isolation of prisoners and the mental well-being of individuals in prisons as a classic example, 23 hours a day stuck in a 8 by 6. I think they're a bit bigger these days, but that
yeah,
sort of size with no access to anything
yes,
is what we're all going through at the minute. And the
yes,
well-being of everybody is paramount. So
yes,
yeah, getting the two to balance is going to be a fine act. But I think if there's anybody out there or you're thinking, and this is again one of the things I do, I'm forever picking up the telephone and tormenting people as part of who I am. And regardless of where you are in the world, if I have your number, I will call you.
yeah.
That's a
You
warning,
called
by the
me
way.
at the beginning of this, sure.
But yeah, exactly. But it's one of those things that you think about something. I found that every time I'm thinking about an individual, I pick up the phone and I call them because often at that moment, that person, I find out I'm speaking to lady Laura from our
Yeah,
team,
I remember
and I
that.
phoned her, and literally 2 minutes later, she was stuck in a traffic jam at the time I phoned, so she couldn't move. So she was okay to answer the phone because she was engine turned off. But then discovered she got a flat tire on the side of the road, and there's
Wow.
loads of examples of that where it's just
Yeah,
those things. Now, coming back to the energy side, that kind of thing, there is something there, and there's something that says so and so needs a phone call. So why wait? Just pick up
yeah,
the phone and call them. It
yes,
might be that they can't talk to you right now, but at least they know you're there. And I
yeah,
think we've lost that. We used to write letters and wait 2 weeks for responses from our grandparents and aunts and uncles and everybody
yeah,
else. Whereas now it's, well, you can literally have a chat in 30 seconds. So
yeah,
why are you waiting? And why are you going, oh, no, I'll get round to that?
yeah,
Just pick it up and give them a ring.
yeah,
There's absolutely nothing stopping anybody. So that's, yeah, that's one of my main sort of features, if you like, is I spend a lot of time just going, actually, no, thinking of that person, I'm just going to give them a ring now and find out
Yeah,
what's going on.
nice. And that staying connected is so important at the moment.
Yeah, we're more connected than ever, yet the world has been so disconnected, it's unreal. So
Yeah,
hopefully the balance will realign. But
yes.
yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. I think there's a paradigm shift on that due.
I think so too. I've never FaceTimed my friends before.
Yes. Oh, well, we've got the fire team across the globe. We seem to be building more people. We've got a Zoom
Yes,
conference
I've
call that
been
we're
on a
looking
few
at.
of those.
And I finally got on the one the other day, and it's brilliant because you've got so
Yeah,
many faces and so many, and every one of those is a memory, and it's one of those things. Why people wouldn't do it is just beyond me.
yeah,
There's the potential is there, the devices are there, we've got the reasons to do it.
yeah,
Why do we make excuses not to?
yeah, yeah. It's yeah, and particularly in that culture where it's all about positivity and growth, because
Yep.
like growth makes us feel like we're living. Growth and service make us happy.
Oh yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely. And I think everybody desires it, but a lot of people don't know where to get that first foothold. And it's like Tony Robbins events. First Tony Robbins event I went to, I was kicked into courtesy of my darling mother, who thought she
really.
would say, "Oh, by the way, this is booked and you're going." Oh,
Wow.
great, thanks. I had no inclination of what I was walking into. Um,
Yeah,
so and I went in with probably the most negative mindset possible. Didn't enjoy it, but I made a point of making myself not enjoy it when you look back at it. But when you start picking up the pieces and looking at other things, I was like, actually, and a couple of years later, that all tweaked together, and I made a designation to myself to change certain things within a 78-day time frame. I set myself a 1 year target, but it took 78 days to succeed in every one of them.
really.
So yeah, and it's one of
Brilliant.
those bits and pieces where you can if so long as you get that focus in the right place, and it's all putting it, and it's that moment where you've got enough of I've had enough
Yeah,
to say actually I'm doing it and it's not changing. Nothing is going to
yeah,
make this move. And once you've set that, that's it. And that's all
yeah,
anybody needs. That we
yeah.
don't realize it until somebody gives us a push or we push ourselves over the edge, and that's too late.
Yes, and we can do that many times in our life. We can get to many stages where we're like, what I'm doing isn't enough. This isn't working for
Yep.
me. I need to up this. And that's what I have found during the time of lockdown. I have had to up everything.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
of the
I
self
think and I think a lot of people are struggling with that because it takes a different type of energy, it takes a different type of thought process, and that
yeah,
tires people who aren't used to it. You haven't trained those muscles to do it,
yeah,
and it's not physical muscle, it's mental muscle. And I think a lot
yeah,
of people forget that it's very easy to just say, actually, I'm going to sit and watch Disney Plus or Netflix, or
yeah,
rather than do something that's actually going to be proactive and productive. And
yeah,
yeah, we are yeah, it's definitely a gap that needs filling in most situations, but it's whether that individual wants to take that choice. And I think
yeah,
nobody can ever tell you to do that.
yeah,
You've got to do that for yourself.
yes. And the long-term benefit of actually finding joy in a very challenging time means that when
Hmm.
things get easier, it's going to be easier to find joy.
Yeah, and the more you do, the more you get.
Yeah,
It's again, and I think this is it, but a lot of people find it very difficult, and they find that they're running on quicksand almost.
yes,
So it's finding that little niche and then finding how to grasp it and how to use it and how to work with it. And there's enough people out there. There's coaches. I lost track. There's so many coaches I can name,
they're all
but
they're
there's
all
so
doing so
much
much stuff
support.
for free at the moment.
Yeah.
All of the coaches are doing so much stuff for free.
Oh, they are. It's phenomenal. And the best bit
I've got
is,
coaches all day long on my feed,
yeah,
and I do.
yeah. I had to strip Facebook back to well, take nearly 2,000 people off because I was finding my feed was just a churn and viral comments and things that they were energy zapping. They weren't positive, so I had to pick through and actually eliminate all of the ones that currently drain the energy because you end up reading them anyway, or you
Yes.
end up passing them, and it's just those continuous references of negativity and the spam that's in there, and it's
Yeah.
just and getting rid of the whole lot and starting again.
Deleted 2,000 people off your Facebook. Brilliant. Must have taken
It's
a while.
pleasurable. It's surprisingly enjoyable.
Bye.
Yeah. And a lot of them are very nice people, I'm sure, and there's various things, but you pick up all these connections over the years, and then you're looking back on it, you're like, no. And even down to certain things, and you get points where you're like, nah, that particular chain or that person who posts consistent pictures of their, I don't know, their pet donkey walking, and I just, no, it's nice that you've got a donkey and you like to take 600 photos, but I don't need them on my feed.
Curate your feed. So
Yep.
your interest in personal development books, could we at the end of this post a reading list for people who are interested in feeling more inspired?
Yeah, we can put a whole library together.
Brilliant.
But yeah, there's a couple of key ones I think, and I say The Power of Now is one that I think is personally one of the best books ever written. But I'll put a few others up there.
Yeah.
I've recently got a few more new ones to read, which are classics as well. So Tao Te Ching is on my list to read.
Right.
And I've got Ho'oponopono, which I'm still trying to work out the pronunciation of. But
I'm
that
sorry.
one I will.
I love you. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Please
Yep.
forgive me. I love you. Yeah. The Hawaiian sort of mantra, I guess.
Yeah, so that's on my list, and that's one that I've come across many times. And what I've done is, it's interesting because the books I pick, it's literally a matter of I either walk past a charity shop and it's sitting in the window, or what I'll do is I'll reference something, and then somebody will phone me up and say, "Oh yeah," and then you end up having a chat, and then all of a sudden they mention the book that you've been considering, and it's like, this isn't a coincidence. There's scenarios. So I think Celestine Prophecy was another one that I read, which
I must read that again. Yeah, I must read that again.
It's an absolute no-brainer, and what they've done is they published an experiential guide, so you can actually overlay it on your own mindset and your own way of doing things, and put yourself through it. So that's an outstanding book, well written, and it's one that's got that energy stream. Is the whole point of it. It's the concept of the whole book, so that runs through it as well. But I picked that up again by accident. There's a lot of these.
I'm definitely going to rebuy that. Definitely. We read it traveling across Spain in a Volkswagen camper, which someone had given us.
Sounds horrible.
Yeah, it was amazing. And there were 7 adults and my 3 children. And it was really hot. It was August, I think. It was really hot, maybe July. And we were traveling north, so we traveled through the plains, and every day at lunchtime we would stop for a siesta under some trees, hopefully near some water, and we would take it in turns to read each other the Celestine Prophecy. It was, quite mind-blowing. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could set up an online book club now.
Yes. I've actually, during this time, I've actually joined an online book club on Zoom.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're reading Brené Brown. We do a chapter a week. It's brilliant. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah. And something I would never have done, join a book club. Like, I'm not a book club type of person. I'm a going to the gym type of person, and it's a real joy, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely makes a big difference.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you very much for taking your lunch break off to talk to us.
Pleasure.
So many really beautiful thoughts in there, and we will add the reading list later.
Yep, no problem. I'll put that together this afternoon. We'll have something for that this evening.
Brilliant. This is episode 21 already.
Yeah, you'll double up on that pretty quick.
Do you think?
Yep. The problem is it'll be trying to stop you then.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time. Have a lovely rest of the day with your family and at work.
Yeah, you enjoy. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, nice to see you, Michael.
All the best.
Bye.
Bye.